Hello, and welcome to Service Above Self, a production of the Rotary Club of Broad Brook, Connecticut, with support from Rotary District 7890. My name is Margaret Byrne, a Rotarian member of the club. I will be your host for this episode. Today we will explore the legal profession with a focus of becoming a practicing attorney. According to a report by the American Bar Association, in the year 2011, there were 1,245,205 licensed lawyers in the United States of America and its territories. Additional data from the ABA shows that for the academic year 2011 to 2012, 44,495 JD or LLB degrees were awarded from some 201 ABA-approved law schools. Joining me are Attorney Jason Doyon and Attorney Adam Boston. Attorney Doyon maintains a solo practice in East Windsor, Connecticut, and Attorney Boston practices litigation as a member of the firm of Reed & Riga in Hartford, Connecticut. Welcome, gentlemen. In the interest of full disclosure, I too am one of the 1.2 million licensed lawyers. So, Adam, why did you decide to go to law school?
I think for me, I was really looking for a career that could provide an intellectual challenge and also something where I could really give back to the community. I grew up in Canada. My father was a solo practitioner veterinarian, so I really got to experience the trials and tribulations of a small business owner and knew that I wanted to do something with my career where I could impact those types of professionals.
That's great. Now, Jason, how many years does someone spend in law school?
Someone spends 3 to 4 years in law school, depending on whether they're going full-time or on a part-time basis. Myself, I spent 3 years. I went full-time, but I know many of my classmates who spent 4 years and went on a part-time basis while working a job, working a career, raising children, any number of things, really.
Wow. Now, Adam, there is a quote from Abraham Lincoln, which goes something like this. If you wish to be a lawyer, attach no consequence to the place you are in or the person you are with. But get books, sit down anywhere, and go to reading for yourself. That will make a lawyer of you quicker than any other way. Can anyone who wishes become a lawyer?
I can certainly tell you that as lawyers, we definitely do a lot of reading. But really, I think anyone can become a lawyer. There's obviously academic requirements that you have to meet, in addition to a number of other more moral characteristics and fitness and so forth. But really, anyone can be a lawyer. For example, my roommate, when I was in law school, was 45 years old. He was 10 years removed from profession in retail. He decided to go to college and then become a lawyer. A colleague of mine at Reed & Riga, Greg Rada, he was in the Air Force for many years, did his undergraduate studies while in the line of duty, and went on to law school at the University of Connecticut, and now he practices with me. Also a good friend of mine, grew up in the north end of Hartford, very, very tough living conditions. He worked very hard, gained academic scholarships, got out of the neighborhood he was in, and eventually went to law school and now has a successful practice in Hartford.
That's great to hear stories like that. Now, Jason, how does someone get admitted to a law school?
The process in getting admitted into law school is a several-step process. The first step, obviously, is that they have to complete an undergraduate degree and complete undergraduate study. Usually, in completing their final year of undergraduate study, they take what's called the LSAT. It's a typical standardized test various disciplines, various areas that you may consider in law school. There's also an application that is completed and is submitted to various law schools of your choosing. They also ask for your LSAT score. At that point in time, the law schools get back to you and determine whether you've been admitted or denied.
Waiting for that envelope to arrive?
Waiting for the envelope to arrive, hopefully with good news.
Now, when you're in law school, do you learn all of the law that you'll ever need to know?
I'm not sure any attorney can ever claim that they know all the law they need to know, but you certainly learn the skills to become a lawyer when you're in law school. It's really difficult to learn all the state-specific rules in addition to the federal rules, as I'm sure Jason could tell you about as well. But what you really learn in law school is how to think like a lawyer, how to analyze a case, how to deconstruct what your opponent's arguments are, so forth.
So you actually have to wear two hats then?
I think that's right.
Now, Jason, can you elaborate a little bit of what do they teach you in law school?
Well, as Adam said, they teach you how to think like a lawyer. They teach you various thought processes. They teach you how to analyze strengths and weaknesses, not only of your case, but of your opponent's case as well.
And legal research?
Legal research, legal writing, which depending on your practice area may come into use more or less depending on your particular practice area.
Now, Adam, did you have opportunity to gain practical experiences while you were in law school?
I did. When I was in law school, I volunteered all my time in my summers off. I worked for a personal injury attorney in Hartford. I worked for a professor doing research in the area of tort law. I was also a special volunteer at the Public Defender's Office in Enfield, Connecticut. But I think my best experience in law school was working in the criminal law clinic, where I was a special assistant district attorney up in Springfield, doing a wide array of criminal law, which was a really great experience.
Were you actually able to practice as a lawyer under supervision?
In Massachusetts and in Connecticut, there's special rules that allow law students with supervision of licensed attorneys to do certain things in court. Certainly you can't try a case by yourself, but you certainly can do it under supervision, which is a really great opportunity for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, Jason, do you choose a specialty while you're in law school? Like undergraduate, you had a major. So do you graduate with a JD in criminal law?
You don't graduate with a specialty in, say, criminal law, for example. What you may choose to do are choose to take various courses that are specialized or focused in a particular area. For example, when I was in law school, I had interest in tax law, and so I took more courses with a focus on tax law, for example. I had some interest in learning about estate planning, so I took courses about estate planning. But when I graduated with simply a general JD. I didn't graduate with a JD in tax law or a JD in estate planning.
Now, looking back, are you making use of those courses you tried to take extra courses in, or have you maybe gone in a different direction?
In my personal case, I've gone in a different direction to a degree. I have used some of the estate planning work, but as far as tax law, for example, it's an area that I don't practice in on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. Now, Adam, in order to practice law, you need to be admitted to a bar. So how does that happen?
Well, when you graduate law school, most people take the summer right after graduation and they study and prepare for the bar exam. You write the bar exam, which is, in most cases, a 2-day process. There's a national exam that all students across the country have to take, and then there's a second day of state-specific examination. I did that. After the bar exam, hopefully you pass. A majority of people do. But once you pass the actual academic requirements, there's also a character and fitness evaluation where you submit basically everything that you've ever done in terms of employment, education, everything that has to do with your background to the bar examining committee, and they'll make a determination as to whether or not you're morally fit to be an attorney in a particular state.
Now, so there's a bar exam in every state. So if you want to be admitted in more than one state, you have to take more than one exam, Jason?
That depends on the requirements of a particular state. In certain states, they'll allow you to gain admission upon what's called reciprocity, where if you've been practicing in a particular state for 5 years and you're in good standing, they may allow you to waive into the state by simply completing their application and paying an application fee without necessarily retaking a bar exam. There are other states that do require you to write the bar exam regardless of whether you've been practicing for 1 year or 30 years.
Now, both of you practice in Connecticut, so we can only be specific to this state. But once you pass the bar exam, do you have to register every year?
You want to handle this one?
You do have to effectively register every year. There is a client security fund that does need to be paid on a yearly basis. In addition, the bar committee does require you to update your personal information every year.
So they can keep track of where you are and where
So
you're
you
practicing?
keep track of where you are, what you're practicing. In my case as a sole practicing attorney, there are also reporting requirements regarding clients' funds accounts, for example, making sure that they have that information on file.
Great. Now, in Connecticut, are you required to take any continuing education courses?
Right now in Connecticut, there's no specific requirement that we take continuing legal education. I know that there has been a movement to change that within the bar. I think, though, most attorneys do, just as a matter of being proactive and trying to make themselves better attorneys, do engage in continuing education. I think, the Connecticut Bar puts on a ton of programming, often at nighttime, to help attorneys, come up to speed on changes in the law. ways to do things differently to help serve their clients in a more effective, efficient manner, et cetera.
And do they offer some of that online also?
Sometimes it is. I know for a fact that you can order certain programming via CD or DVD, that sort of stuff, and you can do it that way electronically.
On your own time?
Yep.
Oh, great. Now, are there any advanced degrees beyond getting a JD?
I think I'll defer to Adam on this one since he's actually a holder of an advanced degree.
Yeah, there are advanced degrees in law. Again, you can't specialize, as Jason had said earlier, but there are ways to gain entry into master's programs at law schools where you can focus on a particular area of law. Myself, I went to Georgetown University in DC. For 1 year, I completed an LLM in tax and employee benefits. That was a one-year program designed to really wrap your arms around the regulatory environment that is the tax law in this country.
And are there areas in which practicing attorneys can be considered experts? And who sets the standards to determine that they are experts?
There are some very limited areas in which attorneys can be considered experts. Workers' compensation is one that comes to mind, for example, where certain attorneys are able to be classified as experts upon demonstrating a certain level of expertise in that area. They may also have special examination that they may need to take as well.
And then they can advertise themselves as having more experience in that area?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, we will take a short break. And when we return, attorneys Doyon and Boston will discuss the different types of practices in which an attorney may use his or her law degree.
Could you dedicate yourself to a worthy cause? Could you go the distance to keep a child healthy? Could you travel to the other side of the world to help eliminate polio? Could you? A Rotary member could. We're dedicated to connecting children with vaccinations and ending polio worldwide. All it takes is one person to make a difference, like me, like you. Could you help change the world? Will you? Rotary. Humanity in motion.
Severe weather can destroy a home in seconds. Have a kit so you're ready for any emergency. Develop a plan for what you and your family will do before disaster strikes, and stay informed during severe weather any way you can. It can be the difference between losing your possessions and losing your life. Visit weather.com/ready for more information.
Mom!
What?
You can't find Ichabod.
What?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
Rejoining me are attorneys Jason Doyon and Adam Boston, and now we'll discuss making practical use of that law degree. You've graduated from law school, passed the bar exam, been admitted to the bar. Now, how do you put that degree to work? Jason?
In my case, I decided to hang a shingle and open an office and go from there and really work on practicing and serving clients and serving the community as best as I could.
Now, Jason, you maintain a solo practice. Washington Irving is quoted, "Young lawyers attend the courts, not because they have business there, but because they have no business." How does a lawyer who's just entered the workplace start up his own business?
One of the ways of starting your own business is just getting out there, networking, meeting as many people as possible from all different fields, all different walks of life. Because you never know who may require your services, you never know who you may be able to help. One of the things that you also do when you're starting up is that you do visit the courthouses, even if you have nothing going on, just to sit in on some of the proceedings in order to gain a better practical understanding of the day-to-day realities of practice.
Now, do you limit your practice to specific areas of law?
I do limit my practice to specific areas. Some of the specific areas that I limit my practice to include estate planning, real estate transactions, and divorce.
And why did you choose to limit?
I chose to limit to several areas because there's just too much law to learn and one person can't be expected to know everything. And those are areas that are of particular interest to myself. And so in choosing to limit to those 3 areas in particular, those are areas that are of great interest to me and
You can focus on those.
that I can focus on.
Now, are there rules about attorneys advertising and soliciting business?
There are rules as far as attorneys advertising and soliciting business. There are certain limitations. The State Bar Committee does require people to register any websites 4 times a year if they have any websites or any domain names, for example. We are limited as far as the advertising in newspapers is concerned. You are allowed to say certain things. You're not allowed to say other things, for example. You are able to solicit people by mail under very strict regulations. Notably, the envelope has to be stamped in pretty bold and distinct lettering, attorney advertising.
Now, do you have to submit any of that advertising ahead of time to be approved?
It does have to be submitted ahead of time in order to receive approval, yes.
And if you don't, you fall on the bad side of the grievance committee?
And if you fall on the bad side of the grievance committee, that's something that no attorney wants to deal with.
I can understand that. Now, have you found networking to be a useful tool in obtaining business?
I have. I found it to be a useful tool not only in obtaining business, but in also providing quality people to refer clients to. Sometimes I'll have a client that'll come in on a particular matter and they're looking for a professional in a different field. And through some of my networking, I've been able to find them qualified people in those particular fields.
Do attorneys network amongst each other?
Absolutely. For example, I don't practice any immigration law at all. But if I know someone who needs an immigration attorney or has immigration issues, by knowing a qualified immigration attorney, I can provide my client with his or her information and make that connection for them.
That's great. Now, do you wear many different hats in operating a solo or small practice, such as being the lawyer, human resources, bookkeeper?
All of the above, where pretty much every hat imaginable, from bookkeeping, human resources, attorney, receptionist, pretty much any hat that you can think of in a sole practice I wear.
Now, do you think your law school experience prepared you to operate a solo practice? Or was there learning on the job?
There's learning on the job. I also grew up in a household. My father does drywall and remodeling and effectively was a sole practitioner, so growing up in that type of environment, I was able to learn a lot of the day-to-day business dealings that you learn and that you transfer over to your job.
Okay, so some things you learn in law school and other things you learn from real life.
Yes.
That's great. Now, Adam, you practice in a law firm. And how many attorneys are in your law firm?
We have 46 lawyers in our Connecticut offices, about 44 in Hartford, and we have a small New Haven office as well.
And are you in another state or just Connecticut?
Just Connecticut, yep.
Now, is that considered a large firm or a medium firm?
46 lawyers is a large firm for Connecticut. You know, when you look nationally, there's certainly firms that have, you know, hundreds, thousands of lawyers, but certainly in Connecticut, we're one of the larger firms. We're a full-service law firm, so we have smaller practice groups of, you know, 4 to 5 lawyers in different types of areas of the law.
Okay. So you're able to concentrate on a particular area of law?
My practice focuses on largely commercial litigation and employment law. I would say about 50-50. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And is everyone in your firm expected to bring in business? Is that?
I think like every business, at some point in your development in your career, you're expected to bring in clients and have your own client base, so forth. But when you start out right out of law school, I mean, what you're really supposed to be doing is developing your knowledge of the law, improving your skills, honing them and the like. And then as you progress throughout your career, hopefully the good work that you've done for clients will allow them to come back and call for you specifically, such that you can actually maintain and create a group of clients from those that you've been working with for the past 4 to 5 years, and also take that experience and use that to develop new external business.
Now, do you find with a larger firm that attorneys make a career at that firm, or do they stay for a while and move on to their own firm?
I think the answer to that would depend on the different firm you're talking about. Largely attorneys will start in one place and perhaps move to another place 3 years down the road, and then perhaps somewhere else another couple years down the road. Sometimes attorneys leave private practice and go into business for themselves, or they'll go work for a company. I know in Connecticut there's a lot of corporate headquarters, so I do have many friends who have left private practice after about 5 to 7 years, and they've gone in-house or gone and started their own company.
Oh. Now, many people watched legal shows on television may be familiar with the term billable hours. Now, what does that mean? And if you're working in a larger firm, is there pressure to maintain a certain amount? Do you have to put so many hours in at the office?
Well, a billable hour is really an hour or a part thereof that you work on a matter for a particular client. Now, there's a difference between a billable hour and what you put in the system and what you actually end up billing a client. Sometimes with younger lawyers, it perhaps takes them longer to complete a particular task, so they may have billed 7 hours to a file, but it may be more appropriate to charge a client for a lesser amount. In terms of billable hour pressure, I think that depends, again, on the firm that you work with. I can speak for my firm in particular. We're really focused on the quality of legal services we provide, and the amount of time it takes is certainly a factor, but what we try and do is really complete everything to the best of our ability in the least amount of time, the most efficient manner possible.
Now, do lawyers offer free services?
Most lawyers engage in what's called pro bono activity. That's where you'll offer your services to people that can't necessarily afford to pay for their own lawyer, can't necessarily find their own lawyer. There's a number of networks, as I'm sure Jason's aware of as well in Connecticut, that farm out pro bono work to law firms. They, because private lawyers have their own caseload of paying clients, but there are agencies that will call, or we can call and say, hey, do you have anyone we can help out today? Someone that can't pay for a legal service, and we can actually go in there and help them. And it's particularly great for younger lawyers because it allows them to get experience, perhaps at a trial or at a hearing where they otherwise wouldn't be able to gain that type of experience in their own practice, but they can do so helping someone else.
And in a particular area.
Correct.
That maybe they want to develop.
Correct.
More intensely. Great. Now, are there professional associations that you might join?
You might join the Connecticut Bar Association, for example, which is comprised of lawyers in Connecticut throughout varying practice areas. Within the Bar Association, they have what I'll call different breakout groups of attorneys who may practice in estate planning, for example, or sole practitioners, or attorneys who deal in employment law or immigration law, bankruptcy law. And so you have those resources available.
Now, how do you keep up to date with changes in the law?
We read a lot. Google is an extraordinary tool for the practice of law. There's tons of continuing legal education programs and updates. I'm continually getting several bulletins every day from various trade associations, legal, human resource, for example, where they're educating lawyers on new developments in the law, a new case that may affect a particular way a law is interpreted, et cetera.
And even like the Connecticut Bar Association, do they update people on what's going on?
They update people. They have the Connecticut Bar Journal that they publish on at least a quarterly basis, very frequently, more often than that, which will provide people with updates on various case laws in Connecticut, how various cases were interpreted throughout the last calendar year. And in addition, they put on as Adam was saying, a pretty wide variety of continuing legal education programs.
Now, Adam, you mentioned Google. And I think a lot of people think of legal research as going into the law libraries and pulling out those big books. But has legal research changed with the times and technology?
I think the electronic age has changed the speed with which legal research can be done. Certainly we can do a lot more quicker these days. Google is no substitute for good legal research done by an attorney. We hear a lot, especially clients come to us and say, hey, I have this issue and I Googled how to do X or how to do Y. Is it okay for me to do that? And so you really have to rein them in, walk them through the law, and really make sure they're not getting poor advice from what they read online, because there is a lot of it, and it definitely varies from what may necessarily be accurate or inaccurate.
And there are resources online to actually do legal research and look at cases?
There is. I mean, the Connecticut Bar offers legal research databases you can go on. Again, with Google, you can find yourself into into whatever kind of research you need to do. But it's really important that you actually go to an attorney to make sure that what you're reading is accurate.
There is a lot of self-help out there online for documents, wills, things like that.
There is, and especially as we see the economy is getting tougher and tougher, a lot of people are turning to some of the self-help options that are available to them online. But as Adam was saying, it certainly doesn't substitute for sound attorney's advice.
Now, knowing what you know and what you've been through so far in your careers, if you had to do it all again, would you?
Absolutely.
I think I would do it again. Like I said in the beginning, when I entered law school, I wanted to find myself in a career that was intellectually stimulating and allowed me a chance to give back. And certainly, my practice now allows me to do that. And as well, the longer you've been out, the more you get involved with the community and your clients. And I think that helps to enrich your whole career experience. So I think the answer would be yes.
Well, Jason Doyen, Adam Boston, thank you very much for joining us today and educating all of us about a career in law and how it is more than just a job, because your clients trust you and you can impact their lives. Thanks to all of you for watching this program. We hope that it may have given you a new idea about a career path. As always, we here at Service Above Self encourage you to find a worthy cause and lend a helping hand. Until next time.